Sure. So for a new sales RD outbound, that's basically a telemarketer. That's someone that's making a large amount of outbound calls. They're spending the majority of their day making those outbound calls, trying to establish those relationships and sending out those applications. For some part of the day, they are focusing on following up with people that they had reached out to in the past day or so or week or so, that had asked them to call them back another day, or they're reaching out to a lot of new people as well. The outbound team specifically doesn't really deal with any inbound calls. Any of the inbound calls that come in get rotated through the account executives or the inbound RDE team, depending on the size of the deal that they're looking for. So the outbound people are more specifically focused on just outbound calls. But the method that we have used for them, we do send, in addition to calling people, we do occasionally, we'll send a text message to follow up or an email to follow up. So it was important for us to track that as well.
Yep.
Now, one thing I wanted to show is that when I first started and I first introduced this to the CEO and to the sales manager, and I was showing them the scorecards and what it was about, the first thing that my sales manager said, like, all right, well, I want everyone should be making, they should be on the phone for 8 hours a day. It's like, all right, the sales guy, they're coming in, they're working 8 hours. But it's not feasible to be on the phone for 8 hours. They're not, it's when you come in, you're not putting on into a dial tone and just waiting for the calls to come in. In our systems, we have numerous lists. They go back and forth. We're not on we prefer not to use a power dialer where it's dialing constantly, or it's dialing many more people than would have been able to answer. Just because we don't want to annoy people. We want to get their business and have a nice relationship with them. So a lot of the dialers that we have are, if it's one rep, it's one call at a time. And it's an automated system to make that as quick as possible, but also keep that courtesy there. So it was important that we first set out, we really didn't have anything really set out. The metrics were kind of big, wishy-washy. We kind of throw in there and say, yeah, sure, I'll put on there that it's going to be, 8 hours of talk time in a day. But as soon as the data starts coming in, you start looking at those dashboards, looking at those reports, you quickly realize that no one's hitting that score at all or coming even close. And that's the best way that you can go in there and start adjusting your metrics. And it was important for us, for my sales manager and for my CEO, for them to understand that you have, in Ambition, you have two scores. You have your activity score and your objective score, being that the activity score is what you did that day. What you did that, and on a scorecard especially, is what at the end of the day would say that I had a good day, that I did all I could do today. And then the metrics are the end of the month. How do I know if I had a good or a bad month? That's the data that's going to be showing there. And for each different role, it's going to be a different set of variables and different set of metrics. So it was important for us to figure out what was going to be good. And again, we had gone through phases of the sales manager saying, all right, if it's not 8 hours, I want it to be 6 hours, but I want it to be 50 emails, 50 text messages, 10 apps out or 15 apps out a day. And again, I had said, we have some data now. We have 1 or 2 months of data. Let's take a look. How many apps are sent out on average, or who would you say is the best, outbound RD we have? Let me see what he sent out in a week or a month. And you'd say, all right, well, you don't want to set Ambition to be, the top. You don't want to say, this is what our top guy does. You want to say, this is what you should be doing today. If you don't get there, then you didn't do your job today. And that's one of the big things when it comes to activity score and outbound and the objective score is the dashboards. And I just want to switch over real quick to that. Let me just I'll pop into one of the sales guys real quick just to see. Here's one of our outbound RDEs.
All right, Robert, you're the star.
Yep. All right, so here we can take a look. And now you can see the color of the bars, obviously, and you can see anything in red is obviously it needs focus. Anything in orange is getting there. Anything in green, you're good. And so in this case, we had told all of the sales team, and I instructed the manager, and that's, at the end of the day, the manager can see this dashboard and the user sees it. They see it on their sidebar in Salesforce. They can go into Ambition, they can see it, and they'll definitely notice that metric and those colors. And it's, hey, if you don't make your calls through the day, or if all those bars aren't green, why are you cutting out at 5 o'clock? Why don't you stay later? Why don't you, take some calls on the West Coast and try to make up those bars? And that was telling them, what activity you're doing, throughout that day, because if you can get there on those bars, when it comes down to the objectives, you should meet it.